As we get into session number 4, let me ask you a question about what we just talked about. That's awfully stretching conversation. How many would say, wow, I am starting to despise my current level of productivity. I do want to learn how to do this. I do believe that it's not culture but wisdom. I do know that wisdom's crying in the streets, and that those who seek wisdom and love wisdom, that she will respond to you and fill your treasuries. That this is a huge paradigm shift. Until you turn and view the truth about your business and about your church or your ministry, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be happy with minimal performance. Our problem is we compare ourselves with our peers. And if they're growing 5% and I grow 7%, yes. What? Compare yourself to the 10 Mina man. Now to the rest of your life. When we decided to launch Teach Every Nation, and the goal was to start hundreds of mini Bible colleges with untrained pastors around Africa, people told us we were crazy. Maybe 4, maybe 5. It's not what other people do. It's the 10 Mina person. And when you're running for him, I'm running this for him. It's for him. I've given you your life, son. Come on, man. I promised I'll be with you. Go for it. There's no limit. None. I want to move into session 4, which is double by understanding your current strategy. There's going to be 2 sections on strategy, one now and one after lunch. The one after lunch is the most advanced material I'll teach you. It's materials that people who get their masters in business, many of them don't even know. That's advanced. I'm giving you an advanced one. This one is not advanced, but it's going to take some real thought on your part because it's not commonly thought about. How do you go from 350 never-ending gardens to 1,000 never-ending gardens to 100,000 never-ending gardens to 1,000,000 never-ending gardens? Point 1, we had that goal, and we were committed to it. We had prayed about it until we had peace about the number. We had peace about the number. We had peace about the number. Just don't go off the end and come up with a number. Pray and say, God, is this a number that's pleasing to you? And until you get peace, you keep praying about the number. Okay, so let's say that this represents the new goal right here. And it's much larger, taller, more difficult. And this is where we were at the beginning. 1,000, 100,000. Okay. This is the new goal. Strategy is simply, how do you go here to here? That's all strategy is. It's the how. This is the what. I was at 1,000. That's 100,000. That's the what. You set a goal before you know how. This is exactly anti-intuitive. Most people think it's foolish to set a goal unless I know how. It is not foolish. If you study how God set goals in the Old and New Testament, he never told people how first. He always gave the goal and scared them to death. That's why he says to Moses, don't be afraid. He says to Joshua, go do this. And what does God say? Don't be afraid. I want you to hear what I just said to you. It's profound. God gives us goals that frighten us. That's his normative approach. People think backwards and think, if I have fear, it's from the devil. No, if you have fear, it's probably from God. Because the goals he asks people to do for him bring fear. They bring fear because they're beyond what you ever imagined you can do. That's why you're afraid. If you're doing 1,000, if you'd have said to me back then, was I afraid about achieving 100,000? The answer was scared to death. Did we know how to do this? No, we did not. Did we have any idea how to do this? No, we did not. Why do I practice this? Because that's how God does it. That's why I practice it myself. I copy God. Wait. A disciple is like his master in all ways. Ask the question, how did God set goals? Did he tell people how to do it so they were comfortable, they knew how to do it, and then he gave it to them? Or did he give a goal without telling them how, and they had to walk by faith to get here? Which way? It's the second way. That's why I set goals this way. Okay. What you're doing here is a strategy. Strategy is the steps you take to do something. That's all. Last night we had a wonderful meal prepared at the place we were staying. It was lamb chops and it was an unbelievable dessert. Dessert was a special cheesecake, and on top of it was, I don't know how to describe it. It was thin golden threads of sugar, all like this. It looked like a piece of heaven coming in. And we said to the chef, "What is that?" "That's sugar." Wait, how strategy? That's the what. How is strategy. So he said to him, "How'd you do this?" "I did it." "How did you do it?" "We took brown sugar, not white sugar, no, brown sugar." "What'd you do?" "Don't add anything to it, just put it on the fire." "What do you do then?" "You take a wooden spoon." What's he giving me? Steps. You got to understand, strategy is how, and strategy is always steps. We don't understand strategy, but we all live with strategy all day long. So what's he doing? He's telling us, here's my strategy of how I make this angel hair. And I get this spoon going, and it gets a little bit thinner, then it starts to thicken up, and then I put the spoon down, I start using my fingers, and I start making it thin, and then he said, "You have to watch me." Okay, what is that? Strategy. What is strategy? I do this first, and this second, and this third. Now, listen diligently. Everything I do is because I followed certain steps. Everything you do, because you followed certain steps. At break time, I wanted a cup of tea. There was no tea yet. I want tea. What is that? Goal. I want tea. Strategy. Find someone. Do you know where the tea is? Yes. Can I get you some tea? That would be wonderful. What would you like in it? Some milk and some cream. Okay, I'll be right back. Goal, tea, strategy, find someone. Second, hopefully they'll suggest they can get it for me. Okay, now, this is hard to do initially. Everything that you're doing to have 67 people in your church or to have 100,000 revenue or turnover in a year is from a current strategy. Grab it. Grab what I'm saying. It's a concept. Own it. You're producing 100,000. How are you doing it? With a strategy. Well, I don't know what the strategy is. I know. That's the problem. You don't know the strategy. You just go to work and work. So how can you improve your strategy if you don't even know what it is? You can't. That's why you're stuck. Come on. That's why you're stuck. How can you improve the steps you don't know you have? Come on. Is the light going on? 98% of all companies don't even know their strategy. They just do it. We sell. Okay. We service. Okay. How do you sell? What? One of our friends was overseeing us last week, and he works at a restaurant here called Spur. Great restaurant. I love Spur. And he said, they have a competition in the nation, and I want to win it. You do. I'm a waiter, and I want to win. I said, that's wonderful. What is that? That's an exponential goal. That young man's going places. He wants to be number one in the country, and it's clear. What's your goal? The most productive people have very clear goals that mean a lot to them. The goal's got to be really important to you, or don't set it. So I said to him, what do you have to do to win the award? He says, I have to do two things. It has to do how much food I sell my customers. I get a percentage of that. I said to myself, Spur's pretty sharp. They're motivating their waiters to sell more food. Smart. I said, how else? By the amount of tips I get. I said, okay. What do you want to do? What do you mean? How are you going to win? I'm not going to win so far. Okay. What do you have to do to win? I have to double. So that's not hard. What? That's not hard. How do you know it's not hard? Look at the gray hair. I lived a long time. I know how to double. Yeah, but you're not a waiter. No, I don't want to be a waiter. Well, how could you tell me how to double? Because I know how to drop a pin all the way down to the floor. And I said, what's your strategy? Come on, get this together. What's your strategy? What do you mean? If you have to sell more food and you have to get a higher tip, those are two results. What's your strategy to sell more food? What's your strategy to get higher tips? I do the best I can. That's a terrible strategy. I said to him, what causes a person to give a big tip if I serve them on time? Nah. If I get their food right? Nah. It's not? Nah, they'll give you a so-so tip. What causes a person to want to give a person a really big tip? I don't know. They like the person a lot. And that person shared something they want to do with the money that means a lot to the person who heard it. What do you want? Oh, I want to get a new computer. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Why? I'm a graphic artist. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, how do you increase your likability? What? What's your strategy to help the person like you? Scrub my teeth? No. Okay, well, I'm trying to give you a particular big idea here. That's strategy. And then how can you cause them to buy more food? I don't know. I said, okay, well, what does the average person get? A starter? Nope. Does the average person get a dessert? Nope. Well, there it is, right in front of you. So the average person buys a meal, right? So if you had the average person either buy a starter or buy a dessert, what would happen to the amount you sold? That would double. Yes, you would. You would double. So we then talked about that strategy. And we talked about this strategy. And I said to him, be honest with me now. Can you double the amount of food that you sell now that you know this new strategy of how to do it? He said, it's not even hard. I said, no, it's not. And do you know how to double your tips? I do. I never thought of any of these things, but I can do those things. I said, that's right, you can. I said, the problem is you're not going to double. I'm not going to double? No, it's not going to double. Why not? Math. Math? Yeah, math. I said, if the average person came in and spent 10, and you double, they're going to spend 20. The numbers may not be right, but general principles. And if you are going to get 10% or 12% tip, and you're now going to get, let's say, 24% tip, which would be a really good tip, but you now have twice as much food to get a tip from. You used to get 12% of this, which is $1.20. You're getting 24% of $20, which is $4.80. You're going to grow 4 times. You're going to set a record for Spur. Right? A lot of you are thinking, how did he do that again? What am I trying to show you? Strategy is how. And how has to do with the steps. Why do churches not grow? They have a terrible growth strategy. If you're 180 and you stay at 180, your strategy stinks. That stinks. Throw it, rip it up and throw it away. It's terrible. If you have a goal to double in a year and you grow by 1 or 2%, what's the problem? It's not the goal. It's your strategy. You have a terrible strategy. What do you need to do? Well, what is your strategy? Until you know the steps, you can't improve them. Okay. Is this making sense to you? Is it a new way to think? I want to make it real clear. The first time you do anything, it's not easy. The first time you try to figure out your steps and strategy, you're going to have a hard time. Like I said to that young man, when they first come in, what do? I greet them and ask them where they'd like to sit. Okay, that's your first step? Yes. What's the next thing you do? I bring them to the table. What's the next thing you do? I get them a menu. Nah. What do you mean, nah? You didn't build a relationship yet. Don't give them, the second you give them the menu, the second their attention's off of you. You have to use likability here. What can you share about you, personally, that will make the customer say, well, how about that? Oh, I can tell them about, Oh, that's a great idea. Will they be interested in that? Yeah. Good. Now, when you are, halfway through the meal, you pay attention to the people eating around the table. Which one do you think is probably going to want the dessert? I said, is it male or female? Oh, it's usually a female, okay? What you do is, because everybody kind of watches everybody else for dessert, you quietly go over to her and say to her, we have at Spur legendary desserts that will make your mouth dance. This man back here is drooling. Will make your mouth dance. Would you like the cheesecake with some berries on it? Or would you like this malva pudding or whatever it is? Or would you like this? Or would you like all three, ma'am? Which would you like better? I said to him, never say to her, would you like some dessert or not? Never say that. Say, which one would you like? And when she picks it, the other people can't talk her out of it. And then just stand right by her and say, you'll never guess what she has selected to finish the night. And because you are building a good relationship with them, say, as your waiter, who knows all the desserts, the people who are unhappy when they leave Spur are the people who do not have dessert when they leave. Okay. Oh dear. Wait. How did we do that? We wrote down every single step we took. And we analyzed every step and said, this takes 3 steps to do this. How can we do it in 1 step? Yes. This takes too much work. Who can we delegate that to? How can we get the chiefs to let their people know we want to plant gardens and they'll dig up the ground and we won't have to? Whoa. How can we make it so instead of we're digging it all up, we get some volunteers who want to come with us to win the hat that we'll give to the people that help us plant gardens? And how can we pick out 5 kids between 15 and 30 that are with us that loves making gardens and they have a bunch of friends? How about if we challenge them? How about you get 5 friends that will work with you and I'm going to give you the leader cap and the leader shirt. And I want you to plant blah, 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 blah for each one of your 5 people. Can you do this? Yes, I can do this. And if you have 5 people who have 5 people, you sit and drink your Coke as they plant the gardens. Does it work? Absolutely it does. So when that businessman came and said, how do I plant 10,000 gardens in a week? I says, you cannot plant any gardens. If you plant a garden, you're wasting your time. You must get people who plant gardens and who have a team, and they have a team, and you'll plant 10,000 gardens and show them what to do. What's your strategy to double your business? You don't have one. If you're the average business person, you don't have one. You think, I'm going to work harder this year, and I'm going to have a sale. Well, isn't that a terrific idea? You need a strategy. Okay, take a look then at the 4 stages. I'm just going to quickly fill in your blanks for you because I've been teaching this to you. There's 4 stages of business competence. The stage number 1 is called unconscious incompetence. Incompetence. The second stage is conscious incompetence. I'll come back and explain these as soon as you write them down. Number 3 is unconscious competence. And number 4 is conscious competence. It's kind of some long words which have some kind of humorous meanings. Stage number 1 is this. You're unconscious incompetent, which means this. You don't know you don't know. You have no idea that you don't know. Second part is this conscious incompetence, which means I don't know how to do this. That's a good stage to be at. Stage 3 is unconscious competence. Some of the people in this room build up a business to a pretty good size, and they're just a natural at it. Some people do that with church. They build it to a certain size. They don't really know exactly how they did it. They just came naturally. That's called unconscious competence. And they all plateau. Every one of those people that are a natural plateau. Why? They don't really know how they got there. They don't know the strategy they used. And the last part is the most powerful part. It's called conscious competence, which means you know what makes things work. You know how to use them yourself. And you know what's going to be the result. The exponential business model beneath it, we're talking about number 1 is the exponential goals. We're on point number 2 now, which is strategy. And in the future, we'll talk about markets and products and services. Next page. The first thing to do is inform yourself about business strategy. Number 1, I've been teaching you this already. Strategy identifies the steps necessary to achieve the business goals. That's what a strategy is. It's the steps necessary to achieve the business goals. Number 2, strategy exists in all businesses at all times, whether known or unknown. I've tested this with lots of business leaders. They don't know their strategy. They don't know really why it works and why it doesn't work. Number 3, strategy develops intuitively and is repeated continuously. I need to explain that to you. When you start doing something, and you have to get to this point, and you're here, you will just start doing things to get here. This is natural intuition. You will continue doing that over and over and over because you have built a habit, and this is your habit. The trouble with this is you haven't thought through your strategy. You haven't figured out if this is a smart thing to do. You just did what's natural. This will get this result. And then what happens is this strategy plateaus 100% of the time. That's why churches plateau. The only way you can get out of the plateau is to change your strategy. The only way for you to change your strategy is to figure out what it is, which is hard work. So let's take a look at this. a little bit further. Number 4, strategy determines your business effectiveness and efficiency. If you're not making much profit, it's probably because you have an inefficient strategy. Number 5 is what I just taught you up here. Strategy unimproved ultimately leads to the plateau of stagnation. Why do churches bottom out at 57 people here? The number in America is 80. The churches go up, they grow to 80, and then they plateau and they stay, and then they eventually start to go down. Then the pastor leaves, he gets discouraged, does it all over again, and stays at 80 to 100. Why? The strategy of pastors of small churches are inefficient and ineffective. They grow to 60 and they plateau, and the person never realizes it stopped growing because of me. I'm the one who grew it, and I'm the one who stopped it from growing. It's not by praying more. Praying is, I do that a lot, but I mean, that's not the answer to this. You can ask God to help you with wisdom, but you have to change your strategy. If you don't, you'll stay here no matter how hard you work. Strategy is powerful. It's how you get to your goal. So I'm going to then give you the 7 steps here of how to think about that, and then we will conclude. Identify each step in your current strategy. What should a person do like yourself? Let's say you're saying, man, I do want to double in 12 months. And I don't know about Dr. Bruce's comments that it's not too hard to do, but it isn't too hard to do. You have to learn strategy. You're just as smart as I am. I'm not smarter than you. Some of you are smarter than I am by a long shot, honestly. Well, how then do you do this? You sit down and start thinking, what do I do? And what can I do to make my strategy better? We taught a young man in 20 minutes how to increase his revenue by 400% by dealing with 2 issues. What's the key to getting more tips? People like you more. What's the key to getting a bigger amount here? They buy more food. Okay, what's the food they can buy? Before, they can have salads and that kind of stuff. Afterwards, they can, that's it. Well, so you don't have 50 million possibilities. These are your possibilities. And then you begin thinking, how can I get 50% of my people to buy a salad? How can I get 50% of my people to buy a dessert? Then you start thinking, who buys desserts? Who buys salads? What do you say to help a person want to get a dessert? Because that's your job, to serve them for the benefit of your company. The company wants you to sell more food. Sell more food. Okay, there are 7 steps. Number 1, list every step in your current strategy. Get a piece of paper and just start listing everything you do. Number 2, when you get your list done, chart. Put it on a piece of paper sideways. Chart the major steps in order. Here's the first thing that happens, the second thing that happens. One of the biggest, fastest growing churches in America isn't too far from our home where we live in the United States, and we don't attend that church, but Darlene and I went to go visit it. And as you drove up, there were people everywhere with yellow vests, bringing you in, directing you out, and when you're a visitor, they stop everything. They come over and say, we're so glad. The person there in the parking lot, we're so glad that you're here. Please go over here. We have a special place for you, and we have some hot coffee inside for you, waiting for you. And then as soon as we parked the car, a lady came up and said, hi, I'm your hostess. I'm so glad you're here. Is this your first time here? Blah, blah, blah. This is a wonderful church. We love being here. And besides that, our pastor, he sent me to ask you to meet him for coffee when the service is over. I hope you can meet him. He's a wonderful man. And this church, on and on all the way in the church, they're talking to me. What are they doing? They're selling me on the church. Yeah, but wait. They're selling me on the church. Yeah, but that's what they're doing. What's your strategy? They didn't used to have that strategy. They innovated and they kept improving it. What's your strategy? Probably 1 out of 6 visitors come back and visit you. That means 6 people came to a store and only 1 bought. Something's broken. Wait. Something's broken. If 6 people visited and only 1 wants it, it's broken. What's broken? Are you thinking? Where did we get on doubling your church? Woo! So, number 3. Explain why each step is important to your success. Explain it. Number 4. Identify the person responsible for each major step. Who's responsible for greeting the people? Who's responsible for the coffee, etc., etc.? Estimate the time each step takes to complete in your strategy. Number 6, compute the total cost connected with each step. When we were planting all these gardens, we tried with seeds, and too many people in the villages didn't water them because they said the seed was bad. There wasn't bad seed, but that's what their viewpoint was, so we started planting seedlings, little ones. They were planted so you could see them. And we wanted to get the cost, and we decided, well then, let's figure out how much we're spending for the seedlings, and let's figure we're going to plant 12 million seedlings this year. Let's go to the 3 biggest seedling companies and make a deal with them. What happened to our price? Whew. If we'd have kept buying them each week, we were paying this amount. When you make a deal for a year, we're paying this amount. You know this. Are you doing this? Number 7, then I'll close. Estimate the revenue you earn by each step. I hope that this session about strategy has opened your eyes, that people who achieve amazing goals do so because they use their strategy and improve it.